I think many of us believe we have thoughts, and that's kind of what just happens. That's what the mind does. It generates thoughts, and we are simply along for the ride. But wouldn't it be great to have some tips and insight into why some thoughts exist? Especially those that seem to put us down and hold us back, so you can manage them more powerfully in the future? Well, the good news is that's exactly what this episode is all about. Let's get started. Have you ever had an inspired thought and then got really excited about it and started kind of planning it out and dreaming about its reality, and then seemingly out of nowhere, another little thought pops into your head? And that new little thought might be, what if it doesn't work? What will my partner, family, or friends say? Or, you know what, you probably won't have enough time to get it off the ground, and it's really not that great of an idea anyway, so is it really worth it? It's a real buzzkill, hey? And here's something you need to know about the mind. The mind, despite what you might be thinking, actually has our best interests at heart. The problem is most of us haven't been taught how to analyze, evaluate, and assess each thought. We live our lives, we have thoughts, and that's pretty much how things go. But that actually isn't true. In yoga and in many other philosophies, the general consensus is that we are supposed to control our mind, not the other way around. And that isn't to say that thoughts aren't supposed to pop into our heads. They definitely are. People like Albert Einstein and Henry Ford both credit their work to lightning bolt moments where everything finally clicked into place. So when thoughts like, what if it doesn't work, pop into our head, your mind's intention isn't to stop you dead in your tracks and squash whatever joy you were feeling. It's simply protecting you. It's a protection mechanism that engages, and it is designed to get you to consider the viability of an idea, project, or concept. Because if it isn't viable, the last thing your mind wants is for you to spiral into depressive thoughts and feelings or end up in some other detrimental action. This is your mind's biggest fear. Because when you are in those states, it can no longer protect you. Now, this behavior of your mind might feel like it's stopping you from ever reaching your full potential. But I would like you to consider shifting gears and instead see these thoughts as opportunities. There's a concept I read in a book titled The Beginner's Guide to Wealth, and it was written by Australian finance and investment expert Noah Whitaker. And the concept is called reframing. Reframing asks you to consider how you look at something that you once perceived as a negative. And there's actually a whole theory and psychological technique called cognitive reframing, which involves changing distorted thinking to change how you experience things. And that's what I'm asking you to do here. To consider the true purpose behind the thoughts that pop into your head, instead of perhaps allowing those thoughts to hold you back, or worse, hating on yourself and your mind. And this is where meditation can be really an effective practice. I spent years hating meditation. I really hated sitting there trying to control and stop all of my thoughts. And it really impacted my ability to be consistent with it. Like many things in my life, it ebbed and flowed. I would be so proud, meditating every day for 2 months. And then I would have a really big event in my life and just immediately stop. And eventually, once things settled down again, I would pick meditation back up. But it certainly wasn't a practice that sustained me during hard times. when hard times arrived, that was usually when I would drop meditation. But it was during one meditation stint where a thought popped into my mind. And I really like my mind. I truly believe my mind does have my best interests at heart. But this in itself is a mindset I have cultivated. And the thought that I had during meditation was maybe I shouldn't be controlling my thoughts at all. Maybe meditation is all about letting my thoughts exist without judgment for 5 minutes. Really let my mind go absolutely crazy with all its thoughts and not tying myself to any one thought at all. Now, this is something that is widely talked about today, but back 10-15 years ago when I started meditating, this was not the education around it. The education was stop your thoughts. And so I decided I'm going to do it my way and see if this fits who I am. So I abandoned my traditional meditation practice and instead started practicing this. After the first session, I was extremely drained and not 100% confident that this was the right path. Turns out my mind had a lot it was trying to tell me. I did this again the next day and then the next. Much to my surprise, the thoughts on all 3 days were pretty similar. At that time, I had little children, so my thoughts kind of were on a broken record of I'm tired, little kids are hard, I'm bored, what are my next career moves going to be? Why is this my life? And I'm a big journaler, so I actually quite frequently go back over my journal. So I know that these were my thoughts because these were the things that I had written down. And so it wasn't exactly the best 3 days, but I felt committed to giving this new meditation practice a full week. So I was like, okay, well, 4 days to go. Now, day 4 was the interesting day for me. I sat and in came the thoughts. I'm tired. Then came another thought. Of course you're tired. You have a baby that doesn't sleep through the night. That was a little bit different. Then came the next thought. Little kids are hard. Followed by, damn, little kids are hard. But you've got this. You're a great mom and you're doing the best you can. At this point, I decided to peek one little eye open and just make sure I was still sitting alone because it was a little nerve-wracking to have what felt like a tennis match now playing in my head, where one ball was pelted over the net and one ball was softly bounced back. And the whole meditation went like this. The next thought came in. What are my next career moves going to be? Followed by, well, what is it that you really want to do? Because let's be honest, the sky is the limit here. I then sat and contemplated all of the different career moves that I could make. Each one followed by the thought, I'm very tired though. Suddenly it dawned on me that I had been sitting for 15 minutes. And then it dawned on me that I didn't have any thoughts left. And there was just this silence, like complete silence. And I'd never experienced that before. You know, I think by now you can tell I'm the kind of person who has a lot of thoughts and I have a lot of ideas and I contemplate a lot of things. And I'm sure you do too. And it's weird because in that moment, it was like my mind had exhausted itself, talked itself out of complaints, or it had issued concerns and my soul had issued a valid response, either finding a solution or just making a compassionate comment. And I'd started to talk back to myself, but in the same way, and I mean in exactly the same way I would have if I had been talking to a friend. And this is the practice that I still maintain to this day. Only it's not necessarily a dedicated daily practice. Sometimes it is, but sometimes I might listen to my thoughts when I'm making the kids' lunches or driving to the shops. And more often than not, I don't actually have that many thoughts. And when I do, I know that my mind is merely after some reassurance. And as a side note here, I also want to mention that I spent years suffering from insomnia and thoughts racing through my mind at night. And now my head hits the pillow and 98% of the time I'm asleep within 15 minutes. And I credit this entirely to creating space during the day for my thoughts, not just my positive thoughts, but also for my negative thoughts. And so when I wanted to start this podcast, you can bet your bottom dollar my mind instantly went, what if no one likes it? Do you really have time for another project? What will your partner, family, and friends say? Seems like a lot of work. Do we really have the time, energy, and attention for this? All valid comments, to which I replied, I guess we'll see. And with that, my mind shrugged its little shoulders and said, okay, all right, well, I guess we'll see. So the next time you have thoughts like these, ponder on them. Don't let them steal your joy. It's not why they exist. Don't waste precious time judging them. Instead, think of what a good, kind friend might say in response. Your mind is simply making sure you have considered the other side of the project or problem. And maybe all your mind needs is a little reassurance. There used to be a saying that the first sign of madness was talking to yourself. The second kind is replying. Well, fortunately, that little saying has been well and truly squashed. We now know that talking to ourselves is normal behavior. And when the self-talk is healthy, it's fantastic at building motivation and confidence, calming our nerves, and organizing our thoughts and feelings. So the next time a negative thought pops into your head, reframe this to a concerned for your well-being thought, because that's exactly what is happening. Then simply tell your mind, it's okay. I've got this. You needn't worry. And it's important to remember that you are not your mind. It's the thinking part of you, just like your body is not you. It's the vehicle that carries your spirit through this lifetime. Your wisdom is your soul. It's the part of you that really knows. It knows deep inside what you are capable of. And it's this part of you that calmly tells your mind, it's okay. We've got this. Well, that's it from me. Thank you so much for listening in. If you have enjoyed this episode, please share it with your family and friends. Follow, rate, and review this podcast. I'll see you next week. Until then, take good care of yourself.